One skeleton pulled from a cave in northern Iraq rewrites the whole story. He was blind in one eye. His right arm was withered and had likely been amputated near the elbow. His skull had been crushed and healed, and a bad leg left him limping for life. And he made it to somewhere between 40 and 50 years old. In a world that harsh, a man that broken survives exactly one way. Somebody fed him for years. Which means the real question isn't whether ancient humans got left behind, it's why so many of them weren't. We call him Shanidar 1, but the researchers who found him in 1957 nicknamed him Nandi. He was a Neanderthal who lived somewhere between 65,000 and 35,000 years ago. The blow that crushed his face probably blinded that eye and blocked both ear canals, leaving him nearly deaf. The withered arm was useless, gone below the elbow. 2 healed leg fractures meant every step hurt. This man could not hunt. He could barely move quietly. But he lived longer than most of his group. Eric Trinkhaus, the paleoanthropologist who studied him, argued there was only one explanation. His people kept him alive. They brought him food, protected him from predators, and carried him when the group moved for years. And Nandi was not alone. At a site called Dmanisi in Georgia, researchers found an elderly Homo erectus, roughly 2 million years old, who had lost nearly all his teeth. The bone of his jaw had grown over the empty sockets. He had been toothless for months, maybe years, and someone was feeding him soft food or chewing his meat for him. In Java, another Homo erectus skeleton from over 100,000 years ago shows a lame leg. In Africa, a Homo erectus known as ER1808 died slowly from hypervitaminosis A, probably from eating carnivore liver. Her bones show she was bedridden and in pain for weeks before she died. And through all of it, someone stayed with her. Across species, across continents, across hundreds of thousands of years, badly disabled individuals survived long enough to leave bones behind. Here's the kicker. Keeping someone alive when they can't contribute costs you. You're feeding 2 mouths and only one is hunting. You're slowing the whole group down. So why did they do it? Maybe they remembered where the water was. Maybe they knew which plants were poison. Maybe they held the group together just by being there. Or maybe it was something simpler. Maybe they were loved. At Shanidar Cave, a second Neanderthal, Shanidar 2, was killed when rocks fell from the ceiling and crushed his skull. His group didn't just leave him where he fell. They piled worked stone tools on top of his grave, lit a large fire next to it, and cracked open animal bones nearby, possibly for a meal. That looks an awful lot like grief. Another Neanderthal at Shanidar, number 4, was buried in late spring or early summer beneath a dense scatter of pollen. Over 1,000 pollen grains from at least 8 species. Small, bright flowers like yarrow, cornflower, grape hyacinth. For decades, researchers believed his people had laid flowers on his grave. The image is almost too human to accept. Neanderthals mourning. Plot twist. Not everyone made it. On September 19, 1991, 2 German hikers named Helmut and Erika Simon found a body frozen into the ice on the east ridge of the Finalspitze, high in the Alps. They thought it was a dead mountaineer. It wasn't. The man they found had died somewhere between 3,350 and 3,105 BC, over 5,000 years ago. We call him Ötzi. And unlike Nandi, Ötzi died alone. He was about 45 years old, roughly 160 centimeters tall, and he died violently. An arrowhead was buried in his left shoulder. A deep defensive knife wound sat between his thumb and index finger. His gear carried the blood of 4 different people. Ötzi's last meal was ibex meat, eaten less than 2 hours before he died. 8 hours before that, he had eaten chamois, then red deer, and a flatbread made from einkorn wheat. He carried a scraper, a drill, a flint flake, a bone awl, and dried fungus for tinder. He carried birch fungus, a natural anti-parasitic because his gut was full of whipworm. One birch bark container held glowing embers wrapped in maple leaves so he could start a fire without friction. He wore a bearskin cap, wide waterproof snowshoes stuffed with grass, and a coat stitched from patches of goat and sheep hide. He carried 14 arrows, most of them unfinished, and a copper axe that was 99.7% pure. He had 61 tattoos in 19 groups, most of them over arthritic joints, likely a kind of pain treatment, and he died at over 3,000 meters in the high mountains, still holding everything he owned. No one buried him, no one lit a fire, no one came back. So here is what we get wrong. We think exile and abandonment were the norm and that care was the exception. The evidence says the opposite. For most of human prehistory, if you were hurt, if you were old, if you were broken, your group kept you. What killed you wasn't being cast out, it was being caught alone. Your brain knows this. Every time you feel anxious in a room full of strangers, every time you check your phone to see if anyone has replied, every time you lie awake replaying something you said that might have sounded wrong, that's not a bug. That's your wiring doing exactly what it was built to do. Because for hundreds of thousands of years, being cut off from the group didn't just mean loneliness. It meant you would be dead in days. Ötzi carried fire, medicine, weapons, and food, and it still wasn't enough. The people who survived were the ones who never had to find out. Dig into the sources yourself. Link below. If you want to see how far back it goes, we've got a whole video on what happened when the first humans tried to survive completely alone. That one breaks down fast.